welcome Elaine Bisson to Running Your Stories. Lovely to have you here today, Elaine.
Thank you.
And so we're here mainly to talk about your fantastic performance in the spine race. And so first of all, congratulations on that. Excellent run, finishing in second place. Where would you like to start talking about the spine?
I'm not sure where do you want to start.
So, okay, let's start because I messaged you a little bit beforehand, and one of the things I'm very intrigued about is I met you, was it back in November when we went up to Greg's hut for Gary's birthday?
Yeah.
And I know we were chatting then about how you thought you might get on in the race and things, and I know from your previous race history that you're an exceedingly capable runner and thought you'd do very well. And I thought all your answers while we were chatting then were very humble and but I would say more humble than necessarily than unconfident. And I saw you again just on the morning of the race, and then you seemed unconfident. And I have to say, I wasn't surprised at all to see how well you ran and the performance you put in. So yeah, how do you find that the nerves? Is it something that you always have like that before races?
Yeah, I mean, I think the spine is a different kettle of fish to all the other races that I've done. The closest is the Dragon's Back, but that is run each day and then you get a lovely break and then you run again, and it was a nice holiday. But whereas this is, you've got to just run to them and do it as fast as you can. And I don't know, I've just never done that distance and not dealt with sleep management or anything like this before. So it's kind of, yeah, it's huge compared to anything I've been used to. And nerves always get me before every race. I'm a bundle of nerves. I'm awful. Really, really awful.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it a little is that I think it was, I'm trying to think when it was, whenever the London Marathon was that in September? A friend of mine was doing the London Marathon, and she phoned me up a week before to say that she was a complete bundle of nerves, a complete doubting that she could do it. And she thought it was really unusual for a runner who's put in all that training to feel that way. And I explained to her on the phone, no, I feel that way before a lot of races, most races, especially, you know, the ones that are important to you and the sort of bigger races. And just kind of explained to her that as far as I understand, it's quite normal to feel nervous and start doubting yourself and doubting your training in the days leading up to the race. So that's kind of why I thought it was quite interesting to speak to somebody who runs at your level, Elaine, about the fact that actually you're just same as everybody else, and it's really very normal, and it's not that. I'm sure there's some people who don't get nervous. That's great for them, but I think most people do.
I think it's when it's important to you as well. When I got entry in for the 2021 event, and I trained for the year before that. So I've kind of basically been training for the last 2 years for this race, and you put in so much time and effort and thought. So it's just that kind of inherent pressure that you have. You want to do well, you want to do your best, you want to kind of show that your training's been good enough and that you're good enough, I suppose, as part of the nerves.
Yeah.
It's stupid not to get nervous, I think, before the spine.
Yeah, and I think it is very difficult not to get nervous, and it was something I found very interesting about this race, because I've been kind of working up to this race for 5 years. Did 2 challenges, then tried the spine in 2020, DNF'd, signed up for 2021, and then had to wait another year. Mm-hmm. So I kind of expected to be a complete wreck with nerves, but because I'd had the injury issues and decided, well, I'm going to have to hike it, the interesting thing about that was it took a lot of pressure off me about, well, there's absolutely nothing to prove to myself or anybody else about pace, because that's been taken away. It's out of my hands. And I found that a very interesting experience, actually going into the, what's the biggest event of my life, and having less nerves than I have, let's say, when I was stood on a start line for a park run, where I was trying to get a park run PB, for example. So it is a very interesting thing, the pressure that we put on ourselves. I think the pressure is necessary in a way to really, if you're going to push yourself very hard, I think the pressure is partly necessary. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think it's part of training for races, and it's just part of training for something that really matters to you, that you have, I don't know, you have certain expectations, so you just want to do your best, and you're not quite sure how things are going to unfold in front of you. So I just think it's natural, but for me, probably more so than other people.
I can definitely see, and it's one of the privileges that I have by talking to people on this podcast is I've spoken to lots of people, elite runners and back of the pack runners and everybody in between, and I don't think you get more nervous than most people. I think a lot of people hide it very well when you get chatting to two people. So, but yeah, as I thought it was a very interesting thing to chat about a bit. I have been asked to ask you another question as well, actually. As well as being a runner, and of course we all have day jobs as well. You also understand that you're a mother and you have kids.
Yeah.
And I was asked to ask you about how does that put pressure on? Does that put pressure on your time for your training, and about the long races like the Dragon's Back and the Spine, where you're away for days on end? Is that also adding pressure on you as to, well, yeah, I mean, what's it like from your point of view?
My point of view, it's a lovely break, actually. Training days, I do sort of one long day each week, which I think the kids can deal with. Other training's quite kind of normal, and I fit it in around them. So apart from the Dragon's Back and the Spine, I've had no massive kind of gaps from them. Harry has asked me not to do any more long races, but if I do, then I have to make sure that he can stay off school for a little bit.
Yeah. No, that's quite similar for myself with my kids. My kids might have been off school to come and see me finish this time, so they were quite happy about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you say, I think it is possible to build it into your family life and sort of make it part of the family life without it necessarily being an issue. But I know that there's a number of people struggle with that. In particular, the lady who asked me to ask you the question, she feels very guilty actually when she spends sort of overnight kind of races time away from my daughter. And yeah, I just thought, again, think it's interesting because I'm similar to yourself. I kind of think, yeah, it's a nice break. I don't really feel guilty about it, because when I come back, I'm calmer and happier, and I've achieved something, and I feel it kind of sets an example of a healthy, sporty kind of lifestyle to help hopefully inspire them to do things themselves. So
yeah, I hope so. I mean, time away from me makes me feel a lot better, so I feel a lot happier when I'm with them. So I think it's benefit to all of us, really.
Yeah, cool. So wanted to ask you as well, and again, I'm just kind of going off things that relating to other people that I've talked to. How do you find navigation on something like the spine?
So I recce'd most of it anyway. I knew it really, really well from Malum to the finish, apart from the new the added awful bit, diversion. So my navigation's fine. Crossfell was pretty awful, but it's always awful, and it was foggy and icy and snow covered. So I kind of expected that to be bad, but the rest of it was fine. I do a lot of running in the lakes, so I'm going to practice navigation across there anyway. I'm quite confident with it, really. It was fine.
Yeah, is navigation something you've sort of done for a long time? Is it something you've had to learn as you got into these kinds of races?
I think just training for the BG. I did my BG in 2018, so I think that's when 2017 was kind of when I started more off-road running, more fell running, and getting maps out and things, and just really enjoyed navigation and setting up, for routes by myself. So it's kind of built up.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, really.
Yeah. I think it's a good point that you just mentioned there about setting up your own routes and following them. I do find that's one of the things that helps to kind of sharpen my navigation as well, because I think sometimes when you're following, let's say, the Pennine Way or something like that, if you do start to go a little bit wrong, then you find a sign after a while and you kind of know you're back on route. But when you're doing completely your own route, there's absolutely nothing that's other than what you've prepared for your navigation that's going to tell you whether you're en route or off route. And yeah, I find that an interesting way, particularly to sort of really learn like how to use my watch and how to use my my handheld GPS and things. Find it better to kind of rely on them in that way, and learn them. So yeah, it sounds like we've ended up learning those in similar ways. So going into the race, as you mentioned, and I think it's the same for pretty much everybody that does the first time doing the spine race, sleep's always a big concern. Did you have a strategy for sleep?
I talked to a few people before going into the race to kind of get an idea. Sort of basic suggestions was probably to hit the head for Hawes for the first sleep, although I did have in my head a little bit further, so maybe Tan Hill. And then there was kind of like a suggestion of a 3 to 4 hour sort of magic window where you'd get you better sleep, and then to remember like the benefits of a little cat nap, maybe 10-20 minutes on the trail. So I think I'd gone in thinking probably to head for Hawes for my first sleep, and then probably Alston would be my next sleep, hopefully. The other kind of major thing was not to waste daylight, which I did, but I was just I was really, really knackered. Hawes, I think, was way too early. I should have gone to Tan Hill, where it was quieter, and it was really lovely with that roaring fire. Hawes, I wasted too much time. It was too noisy, too many people, and I think I was just too excited. It's kind of too early in the race. And then after that, it was just when I dropped a few places. I was really knackered by the time I got to Dufton, so I had to have a power nap there. And then again, when I got to Greg's hut, I was just asleep on my feet. I had to rest there, and then again at Alston.
Yeah, I obviously I've seen the pictures of you having your nap in Greg's hut, being looked after by John there.
Yeah.
I was just wondering whether you were just trying to recreate Gary's party.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, we had the music blaring and the whiskey going around. I was a lot cozier actually because I had 3 hot water bottles. So I woke up really roasting on the spine rather than Gary's when it was a little bit cold.
Yeah. Right. Note to Gary for his next birthday, he's got to carry hot water bottles up there
Yeah,
for everybody. I think
yeah.
that's only fair. Yeah, as you say, sleeps again. I think it's when you're looking to get a fast time and a place, then when you're sleeping, you're not moving, and I think everybody really pushes the sleep. So, do you know how much sleep you had overall in the race?
I think I probably had about 5 hours, but I know that I could tweak my kind of rest times, and I'm pretty sure I could do better.
When you say better, is that because you felt you were like overtired in certain places, or that you just kind of spent maybe too long in hause or something?
I think I spent too long in hause, didn't get enough of the sleep that I kind of had given myself. It was too early. By Greg's hut, I was just quite dead on my feet, the same as Alston. I think how I just seen how I kind of turned it around from Bellingham when I was really tired again, but I only had half an hour sleep in the car. I think I could probably do better with less early on. But
Yeah.
it's all a game, isn't it? You don't know until you.
No, that's right, and because I can relate to how tired you were going into the race and exactly what the weather's like. You know, those first 2 days the weather was pretty bad, and but yeah, to be honest, I felt very similar. I slept at Hawes as well, and there was somebody in the room snoring heavily.
Uh-huh.
I was going to sleep for 2 hours. After an hour, I just got up because I couldn't sleep and just kind of felt like it was wasted time. But then, yeah, I did sleep more later on, just because I was on a slower strategy. So more time on my feet. I needed a bit more sleep, I thought. I think I ended up with about 7.5 hours. It was quite luxurious. Yeah. Cool. So, what else do I have now? So, what's your nutrition strategy like? What do you like to eat during the
race? I've got a good selection, so I spend quite a lot of time on the hills, so I kind of know what I like and when. Usually start with quite, I don't know, flapjack cereal bars, bananas. I have recently started making a little pick and mix bag. So I made a chocolate pick and mix bag and a jellied sweet pick and mix bag with like Tangfastics and Haribos and things like that. And then the best thing that I packed was bagels, and I found a little tin of tuna mayonnaise that I could make up the bagels at the checkpoint, and then have quite kind of moist sandwiches. They were really, really good. And then squares, salt and vinegar crisps are a favourite as well for the salt.
Cool. Do you have any problems with your mouth getting sore later on?
Yeah, not for this race. I have before. I've got like really painful kind of palate, but for some reason not on this one. Don't know if it was just because it's colder weather, maybe. I think Lakeland 100, I suffered with that.
Right.
That was really, really hot. So it was maybe partly to do with dehydration. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was really hot on the Lakeland. Yeah, I got a sore mouth on this one, so yeah. And that's why I was just saying one of the things I'm going to change for next time is to have some like softer food options for later on when my mouth gets sore.
Yes.
Yeah, I did all right with it though, and I think similar to yourself, I think one of the keys is lots of variety there. So because you're going to get bored of eating the same thing. Cool. So I have to ask, coming out of Dufton, as you go past the farm and get on that really muddy trail, did you fall over again?
I didn't fall over. I do remember falling. Yeah. on our trip up to Greg's Hut. It was worse than that time. It was really muddy.
Yeah, I wasn't sure it was worse actually. It was
Was
bad.
it not? It was bad. It was really
But I think I got really lucky as I was going up there. There was a farmer with his sheepdog, and the dog came to say hello to me. So it just completely brightened up my time.
okay.
So I was completely, just, even though it was quite nasty going through that mud. And talking of dogs, my dog's just come to say hello. Right. Yeah. So obviously the end result of the race was really good. Did you finish it in the kind of time that you were expecting?
I think I was hoping for a Thursday finish.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have sort of a more detailed time schedule, or was it just Thursday finish? Or?
Yeah, no, just a Thursday finish. I was probably hoping for earlier afternoon, so I could finish in the light. But I mean, it's a huge race. You just never know, do you?
No.
If the conditions underfoot, or I don't know, a bit of snow over the Cheviots, you could really slow down.
Yeah. Excellent. So, is there any favourite parts of the race?
The Cheviots on the last day was just amazing. It was really sunny. It was really, really cold with quite a significant wind chill, but it was just really beautiful. For the first time, I saw like 3 herds of Cheviot goats. I've only seen one before. It just felt really, really magical. I think because I was nearing the end and it felt in my grasp now. I don't know, just really, really loved it. Kind of had a smile on my face all the way until it went dark.
And any particular really low points?
Probably going up Knockfell from Dufton. Was pretty exhausted, and going across from Knockfell to Crossfell was just horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
My watch, because I was using that for kind of GPS as well, packed in, and my head torch started messing around. It kept switching off. I think I hadn't kind of twisted the lead in properly, so it just kept conking out. It was just really, really bad. Lived up to expectations.
Yeah. I was on there, and actually, I think it was coming to daylight, or even daylight when I was on there, but it was still really foggy, and like you say, really windy. And the navigation in daylight was still quite difficult because you couldn't see very far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as you say, always a bit fun up there.
And then games.
So should I mention the dreaded diversion?
The dreaded diversion.
Yeah.
For all the mud.
Hadrian's Wall, and then into all that mud. And
yeah, that was miserable.
Yeah, I did find it interesting how miserable it felt, even though I don't think the train was actually that different to if we'd stayed on the Pennine Way, if we hadn't been diverted. You still go through bogs.
Yeah.
And then that really boggy bit through the woods, which is where we'd been diverted from.
Yeah.
Yet, I think, and everybody I've spoken to found it mentally really, really tough because it was a diversion.
I think just because you didn't know where you were going, because I've never recce'd it, so it just felt horrendous. And then the GPX track didn't quite fit what was on the ground. So there was one particularly boggy field where, I messed around far too much trying to find a track that was probably...
Well, it's certainly one of the fields that I didn't find a track either. So I just took a guess and hoped I wasn't too far off. That was, like I say, just kind of strange how much it sort of messes with your head. I think as well, Yeah, Dougie was saying that he found it hard from the point of view of when you've recce'd somewhere, you can like chunk it down really small chunks, like you just get into the next style, the next field or whatever. But I think when we came onto that diversion, is exactly as you say, you don't know how long it is, exactly where it's going to end. You can't chunk it down. So it was quite a sizable kind of distance to cover, and until you finished the diversion, you didn't know that chunk was done. And I think that was part of it for me, is that it just seemed to be on that diversion where I couldn't say I'm at the end of and back to the route that I know
Yeah.
for such a long time.
I think I fixed in my head Hornistead as well, and kind of tried to work out how long it would take me to get there. But because the terrain was pretty bad, the mud kind of slowed me down a lot. It was taking a lot longer to get to Hornistead than I'd hoped.
Yes.
That kind of dragged it out even more. It was miserable.
Yeah. Did you stop at Hornistead?
I stopped briefly. I thought I was going to have a sleep there, but that's when I started getting panicky that the people behind were catching. I think Matt Neal, there was Leaf, and Merrin were kind of closing in. Well, that's what I thought. So I started panicking at home instead. I stopped for a coffee and a cup of soup, and then left quite quickly. Did you?
Yeah. I stopped there, not for particularly long. Just had some soup and some tea, and the media guys caught up with me there, which is how I made it into, I think it was the day 7 update, because I was telling them about hoping that my kids were going to be there at the finish, and then the kids were there at the finish to get videos coming in with me as well. So they put a nice little bit of film together about that, which was it's a great little sort of memory to have from the race.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then actually, I was thinking earlier on, there's the farmer Amy's caravan. Did you speak to him as well?
So that's just before the awful boggy bit, isn't it? Blinks and stuff more.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and I kind of knew that was coming because I'd recce'd it through the day and not really like the going through the kind of grounds. It was always littered and beer cans and things. So
I don't think I'd actually. I mean, maybe I had. I think I had been through there on a recce or on somebody's FKT, but I hadn't met him before the race. But I'd heard all about him. So
I hadn't heard about him. No.
Yeah, he's quite a surprising character, I think, if you meet him first in the race and you hadn't heard about him before. So that's one of those pieces of spine entertainment, isn't it?
No, I did like those boxes before the farm. They were lovely. I don't know if there's much left when you got there.
There was still quite a lot in those. I haven't actually heard who left them out.
No.
It would be good if somebody posted on the Spine group or something so we could thank them, because I think I just took one of the chocolate bars just because it was a great opportunity just to have something different.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely getting to that stage where, though my own food was working well, actually I was eating well, but still anything different was just a treat and a joy.
It was absolutely lovely. Yeah, hunting around those boxes, get some new goodies.
Yeah. So what's your overall kind of thoughts about the Spine race? Great race. Would you do it again?
I would do it again. Yeah. I did go into it thinking I want to do it once, I want to do it well, I don't want to ever touch it ever again. But I kind of finish it, and I don't think you'd get that experience from many races, especially if you kind of stay in the UK. And just the challenge of it and the reward on finishing is kind of exceeds most other races I think that I've done. It's an amazing experience.
I'd strongly agree with that. And I guess the one aspect we haven't really touched on is the volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
They're just another level to almost any other race. I mean, the Lakeland 100's a great event and brilliant volunteers and great atmosphere, but the spine, the way you looked after in the checkpoints. I mean, okay, you are an elite runner and you're at the sharp end of the pack, and I'm sure you're made to sort of feel very special. But I was not at the sharp end, and I was made to feel very, very special, like I was an elite runner at every checkpoint.
I think they're amazing. It's a huge lift as well when you, especially like those dark kind of periods where it's nighttime and you're really kind of you're struggling to get that lift of all the volunteers, and they're so helpful, and you really need it. You really need that boost.
Yeah, it's really very special thing. Just having the medics and people that are just willing to sort your feet out for you. Yeah, it's just why would you want to touch other people's feet?
No clue.
So I guess that leads into segues very nicely into how were your feet?
My feet were dreadful. Not in terms of blistering, so I've kind of learned. So I taped them before I ran, and I was doing Injinji socks and deck shell socks, waterproof socks. And I've done ultras and not had much problems at all with my feet. Obviously, this was very different because it's on your feet for a lot longer periods. By the time I got to Hawes, my feet were huge. I knew that was kind of going to happen, so I'd packed 2 extra pairs of trainers that were slightly bigger and slightly bigger again. I couldn't actually fit my feet in the biggest trainer at Hawes, so it was really painful. So I'd forced them in the biggest trainer that I had, but it's just incredibly painful. I think the melt water and stuff on the top of Great Shinafell helped, because it maybe shrunk them or numbed them. But each time I took my trainers off and tried to put them in there and put my feet back in, it was just horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So apart from that, blister wise, not much.
I'd like to know about your taping technique then, because I don't usually get any major blister issues. Often, regularly get the odd blister, but my feet were horrendous by the time I got to Horton. And to
the blisters.
For blisters, to the extent that I thought I might have to pull out. They were that bad, but I managed to sort them out and actually finished with less blisters than I had when I was in Horton,
right?
Which was great. But I'm now on a mission to learn all about taping my feet beforehand. So.
You need the book Fixing Feet. And you just tape where you think you blister. So I think I've kind of learned which areas of my feet are more likely to blister, and I'll just tape them before any long run that I do, any long race.
Yeah. I heard that Nikki Summers has done a video on YouTube with Wild Ginger running as well about taping feet. I need to watch that.
Okay.
But I'll read that book, Fixing Feet, as well. Cool. Always good getting these tips, sharing them with people. And see how badly we can mess ourselves up. So I take it your feet were just generally very sore from the time on your feet as well.
I think that's what it was. It's just time on my feet and the pounding. Maybe, I'm not sure, but they were sizable.
Have they recovered well? How are your feet doing now?
Yeah, so they were really painful for a good few days. I couldn't sleep with them. They're fine now, back to normal size.
Cool. Yeah, and I think we were both saying just before we started that we're both thinking about going for runs next week.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
So is that
getting itchy feet now?
Yeah. So what's your next race that you're training for?
So stupidly entered the Northern Traverse, which is in April.
Okay, yeah, that's not very far away.
Which is why I need to start running this week.
Yeah. I guess the thing that makes me think about now is since the spine to starting training again, do you think you've eaten enough? Because I've eaten everything.
Yeah, those first few days I was getting up at night to have snacks and toast and cereal and things. It was bizarre. Kind of waking up really, really hungry.
Yeah, actually, that's a thought. What we need to do is ask around on the spine group about these wonderful volunteers to see whether they'll make like checkpoints in our houses for after we finish, so we can keep getting fed every few hours.
Yeah, and sort of feet afterwards as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I don't know if you've kind of tried to work it out. I've had a quick go at working out how many calories you burn on the spine. I came out with about 40,000 and somewhere
I
in that
didn't even
region.
look, actually.
Yeah, and I think I ate very well, but I think I must have had a calorie deficit of between 15 and 20,000 calories deficit.
Right.
So, and that's eating pretty much as you can all the time. Because I was hiking the whole thing, it was easier to eat. So, yeah, I think it's quite reasonable to eat a lot afterwards. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had a calorie deficit because I wasn't piling it in as much as I probably should have done.
yeah,
I've
well,
eaten the house, yeah, a lot.
yeah, it's great. Bake cakes for the kids and eat the whole cake. Excellent. So yeah, so Northern Traverse in April. That'll be interesting to watch how you get on with that. Just trying to think. I know somebody else who's doing it, and I can't think who it is. And then what's after Northern Traverse?
Northern Traverse have got a few like fell runs to do, and the Lakeland 100 July.
Yeah.
And then possibly just a challenge sometime end of summer. We shall see. I've got a big empty calendar for the rest of the year.
Yeah. So you're not doing the Dragons back this year then?
Not this year. I think I'd go back. That was like the best holiday ever. It was a dream. But not this year.
Cool. Yeah, that's my next one.
It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So any tips for me for the Dragons back?
Earplugs. And yeah, just earplugs. I didn't get much sleep because we had a snorer in our tent.
Yeah, it's a good idea though. Yeah, because that's like I say, in Hawes I didn't get any sleep for the same reason. Surprising, even though you feel tired and you think after it was nearly 40 hours by the time I was going to bed in Hawes, and I still couldn't sleep. So yeah, earplugs would help. Yeah, and then back on the spine next January then.
Let's see. Will you be back?
I think so. Yeah. Hopefully I'll be back and able to run, so I can go a bit faster.
Yeah, that'd be exciting to watch.
So yeah, it'll be a different experience. Yeah, it was a really good experience hiking it because, like I say, I had a lot less pressure on myself, easier to eat, easier to drink, and I got that 5 days on my feet and enjoying all the checkpoints. And yeah,
you put in an amazing run anyway, even if you were hiking all the way.
Yeah,
what you can do when you run, I'm not quite sure.
Well, yeah, I think the key is going to be just introducing a little bit of more pace where I can without messing my body up. I think really, I was very happy with the overall time for hiking it. So yeah, hopefully it's the same for you. It's kind of given me a lot of confidence going out and being on my feet for 5 days solid. It's just doing different events. You do get to the stage where okay, you're going to run the Lakeland 100. You're really tired at the end, but you could go a bit further if you really needed to. And then you just keep thinking, well, how much further could I go? I actually felt, at the end of the spine, I could have gone further. If it was another 30 miles or 40 miles, I could have gone further. But it wouldn't have been good for my body. Every additional step I did was definitely doing more damage, and it would have increased the recovery possibly like exponentially. But
it's exciting to see what you are capable of, though, when you push yourself.
Yes.
I think that's why people are drawn into these massive races, because it's partly just to see what you can do and put your mind to it.
Yeah. I was just thinking as well, were you on your own quite a lot in the race?
I think, it was pretty much on my own from Dufton to the finish. I was,
that's quite a way on your own. It's do you think about anything interesting? Have good hallucinations?
Well, the hallucinations were good. It's odd how they appear. It's odd how you feel as soon as the sun sets. And I just, I don't know if you were different, but I just started feeling incredibly tired. And then the grass and things would just turn into animals and dogs and cats, and I'd kind of see people that I thought there were people waiting.
I usually find when I'm on my own, I see a lot of hallucinations of people. Like you say, I think it's because you'd like to see people.
Yeah.
And so you see them when they're not there. I had a lot of hallucinations on this one. I was kind of lucky with my timing into the checkpoints, though. I was arriving in the checkpoints just as it got dark, which was kind of good and bad. I think maybe the ideal time to sleep is maybe like 2 o'clock in the morning, because you get up and out and it's still dark, but then you're going into the daylight. And so that's the time that I was finding really difficult. So I'd set off back out from the checkpoint maybe 10 o'clock at night. And when I got around, and so I'd only just left the checkpoint, so I was okay for a number of hours, but 2, 3, 4 in the morning, those hours were very tough. Fantastic hallucinations.
They were fun. I would go back just to see them.
Because I've had enough of them on other races that I know what they are, and I'm sort of not scared of them in any way or surprised when they start, and I just kind of enjoy them now.
It's annoying though. I suppose when you see something you think is there, it's annoying. Like when you think there's a person there waiting, and you get nearer and you think, oh, it's just a tree or a bit of rock or something.
Yeah, actually I had a great one just near the end, just on the road section, just like literally right at the end, just before you drop down into the village. There's just a bush at the side, and as I was walking up, and this was in daylight now, because I finished just into the daylight on the Friday, and it looked like an old lady walking a dog, and then as I got closer, it turned into a young girl with a dog, and then it turned into like 5 or 6 different things. I was looking at it thinking, it isn't any of these things. I wonder what this is going to be when I get there. I got there and it was just a bush. It's just it is strange. So anything else that I've forgotten to ask you about, Elaine?
I don't think so.
That's a very impressive race, I've got to say.
I'd like to say it was all fun, but it wasn't all fun. Rewarding.
Yes. Yeah, as you say, it's that reward. It's rewarding in the way that you've put all the training in, and then even the event itself. Like people talk about like running a marathon and say like the marathon's kind of like your victory lap. but the spine isn't a victory lap. It's too big, it's too hard. It's you're going to have to work, beyond pretty much anything else you've ever worked at just to finish, let alone finish in a great time or finish on a podium or it's a special event. Excellent. So I like to finish on what advice would you give? And I would ask particularly advice for women that are thinking of entering the spine.
I could. The first day I was kind of kicking myself for not having done enough strength work, because I ran a lot with my bag. I think my bag was kind of, I don't know, 8 or 9 kilos with all my fluids and food in. And I did run a lot, even just short runs close by home. I was running a lot with it, but I think I should have done more strength work and had that bag on my back all of the time.
Yeah.
And then just getting used to the terrain, just going out and running off-road on different terrain and getting used to your kit, checking your kit works in different weather, all sorts of weather. Go out on the worst days.
That sounds very good. The only thing I would add is before you do it next time, let's have a chat and get
my kit weight down.
Yeah, get 2 kilograms off that kit weight. But mine was 6.5 kilograms with water.
Right.
And some some other people were more like 5.5.
Right.
So yeah, I think 6.5 is quite achievable, and I didn't feel I was compromising, or like I was carrying more like 4,000 calories rather than 3,000. I was well loaded with food and things. Need to get that weight down a bit more.
Definitely.
That'll probably get you another 2, 3, 4 hours off.
All right then, you can rip my bag apart.
Yeah. And actually with strength as well, because I'd recently, as in like a few months, so it had enough time to make a difference. I'd started doing an exercise that I hadn't really been doing before, and that I would really recommend, because for me it really felt like this particular exercise made a big difference. And that is in the gym. There's a step. It's about knee height, so not like a stairs step. It's sort of knee height step, and step up onto that, and then you follow through with your other leg, your non-standing leg, and into what they call the 3 buckets position. So your legs out at the right angle, and you're stood up tall, so you can hold a bucket on your head and a bucket on your knee and a bucket on your foot. And you do it in front of a mirror as well, so you can watch your posture, and really look after your posture. And you're just stepping up, stepping down, and then you start doing it with weights in your hands. And just doing that kind of stepping motion with a high step and then with weights, I found really made a big difference. It's when you're on the steep sections, like at Lado and at Pen Again and places like that. I've always felt that those kind of strained my muscles a little with the weight of the pack and the steep steps. And this time I was doing those steps, and yes, it's hard work. You start getting out of breath even at a walking pace, but it didn't feel like it was straining the muscles. It's the first time. I've done 2 challenges and my second attempt at the spine. It's the first time I've gone up those bits without feeling I was kind of straining.
Okay.
So yeah, that's quite an interesting one. Basically, a big step with weights, and do it with a good posture. Yeah. Definitely a little bit that's, like I say, just added that something on top of other things I was doing. So yeah, right. I love that advice, strength work, which again, actually, I've kind of tweaked my strength work from getting to know Anna Troop and helped her because I met her in the Lakeland 100 in 2019, and then I helped her on her FKT last summer. And Anna's a big sort of advisor of strength work as well. So she does kind of separate cardio work and strength work, and then the big days out. I think is probably oversimplified, but yeah. That's
Yeah,
when she went up into the Cheviots at the end of her FKT, I was struggling to keep up with her going uphill, and she'd been on her feet for under 3 days. But yeah, it does help being strong.
yeah, it's the boring bit, isn't it, that gets overlooked?
Yeah, it certainly is. But
really
again,
important.
yeah. Again, actually, I was listening to the Endurance podcast, which is the guys that run the Lakeland 100, the organisers. And one of the things they were saying is after you've done something like the spine, because you've had that calorie deficit, it actually wastes your muscles away a little. And so doing strength work now, as well as we start training again, we need to try and put that muscle back.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
okay, I'll get my step out then. Do the bucket challenge, not with the bucket on my head.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, strength work and the getting used to the kit, definitely. Which again is why we did daft things like going up to Crossfell and -10 and sleeping out.
Yeah.
Get used to the kit. Or prove to ourselves that the kit worked and know what we're doing.
Strength work for you.
Yeah, I mean, I had a 12-kilogram pack on that night, so yeah, that was good strength work.
And breaking the trail for everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it was good. It was good. Right. Well, thanks very much, Elaine. Really appreciate you coming on for a chat.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, always a pleasure to chat with you, and I'm sure we'll see each other in the hills again before long.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.